Okay, we'll slowly get started with our opening prayers. The time has come.
Jumbo, Jumden, Jumbo, Jumbo, Yandam, Zobe, Ribo, Jazo, Jumbo, Devo, Jebo, Jiden, Jebo, Jebu, Palo, Lana, Memba, Lada, Mena, Dumbo, Sange, Jumden, Begawa, Jaya, Dubala, Jazo, Jodo, Jazo, Jumbo, Jumden, Jabo, Jumbo, Yanda, Lobe, Sanye, Rebo, Jazu, Zembo, Devoroshe, Jidin, Jembo, Jiwu, Due, Kalo, Jubo, Lana, Meba, Lada, Mena, Jumbo, Sanye, Jumden, Begewa, Shaya, Tuba, Chazu, Chodo jazo je o tembo chonde de shin shimbo ra chombo yang to bo to be sanye ribo na shabu de war je bo je de jembo je wo duwe kolo yuro lana me bo lada me na je tembo sanye chonde pe je wo sha ya to bo la cha ze lo chodo Gongze gongye tso ju dangze sa chen de la gongpa tenpo nga ne je den de na cho je son de ze je ba kyo la cha nanda po nga cho do su zang wa ye je ja zo se je long po ta ba je de zo na la me wa gongpo kyo nye kyo la cha Senjo tenpo teme dawe sha senpo chawa kyo la cha Dute kyunra seba suna je nyame kyunjin kyo la cha Obo tuje jendenpa tamje kembe tomba po Sona yende jazo je dejin she la cha Dabe de jan dewa yu gewe nye zo le ru Che do den dan ju yu ba shi yu ju la cha To ne to le la yan de la ba da la rab du ne Chen je dan ba yu den de gen du la yan cha De ba che yan me ja che Jewa buzon soba ja rangi sene yonsu tene sanje tenpa ye karma rari marme dang gyuma seba chu dang mena lo dang de da duje chena de da da sonang de tamche seba ye Goban döne gönge radı de gada nada çive lakçube sive sölen rovan
To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent, destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When, the supreme among humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides and said, I am supreme in this world. To you, who are wise in, I prostrate.
With pure body,
Supremely pure, the wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. With the supreme signs, face like the spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. You are immaculate, 3 worlds and none, incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean, to you, the one God's thusness I prostrate. the purity which makes one free from attachment, the virtue which frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime, pure reality, to the dharma which pacifies that prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you, the sublime community intending virtue, I prostrate. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions. Perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly.
This is the teaching for the stars and the flame of the Lord.
A drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all seeing. Subdue the foe of faults. That be delivered from the tired ocean. Sickness and death.
Baba Gujo Sula Jao Zelo Dige Dagi Toba Vision Anjo De Yoga Chago Kumbo Lelon Gelon Kiku Shamboda Chaju Sembe Kiku Shamboda Kala Chitu Shute Choden Samo Nawa Shijawe Chujin Nadagi Dingin Zela Nyobo Shusuya Ti Tse Chaju Sembo Sembo Baba Jere Zewa Jushera Jimparu Chemo Zamo Jeba Nyela Nambara Tajin Bumbo Deda Layara Shinji Tombo Nambar Tao Dene Sange Tu Zedan Demba Sharibu Janju Zemba Zemba Jembo Baba Jere Zewa Jula Tige Jeme Zoribu Kalala Shira Jimparu Chemba Zamo Jeba Jeba Deba Deda Lavara Cha Tige Jeme Badang Janju Zemba Zemba Jembo Baba Jere Zewa Jugi Sedan Demba Sharada Debola Tige Jeme Sharibu Rijebu Kalala Shira Jimparu Chemba Zamo Cheba Cheba Deba Deda Namba Tawar Jade Bumbo Deda Layara Shinji Tombo Namba Yanda Ba Jesu Tao Udongbo Tomba Ni Zuzu Tomba Ni Shemayan Tomba Ni Le Jan Tu Shemayin No De Shen Go To Du She Dan Namba Sheba Na Tomba Jari Bu Deda Chodan De Tomba Ni De Sini Me Ba Ma Ke Ba Ma Ga Ba Re Ma Me Ba Te Ma Da Chua Me Ba Ga Me Ba O Jari Bu Deda Wana Tomba Ni La Zu Me So Me Du She Me Namba Sheba Me Me Nawa Me Ja Me Che Me Lu Me Yi Me Lu Me Ja Me Che Me Ro Me Ri Ja Me Che Me Do Me Yi Ra Me Ba Ne Yi Ji Ra Me Yi Gi Namba Shebe Kangi Ba Do Ya Me Do Ma Re Ba Se Ba Ne Ga Shi Me Ga Shi Se Be Ba Do Ya Me Do Te Shin Do Dong Wa Wa Dong Kun Jung Wa Dong Ko Ba Da La Me Yi She Me To Ba Me Ma To Ba Ya Me Do Jari Bu Te Da Wa Na Cha Ju Sem Ba Nam To Ba Me Be Chir Shir Ge Ba Ru Do Chen Ba La Tin Jin Ne De Sem La Je Ba Me Jin Ta Ba Me De Jin Ji Lo Le Shin De Ne Ne Nyang En Le De Be Tar Ra Chin Do Du Sun Do Nam Ba Shu Be San Je Tam Je Ga Shir Ge Ba Ru Do Chen Ba La Ten Ne La Na Me Ba Yang Da Ba So Be Chang Ju Do Om Ba Do Ba San Je So Te Da Wa Na Shir Ge Ba Ru Do Chen Be Na Lu Ba Chen Be Lana me be nga mi nyam ba da nye be nga mi zhe tam je rab du shi war che be nga mi zhe ba na de ba shi ba cha de shi ra je ba ru do chen be nga me ba te ya da ga de ba ra sam ga de mo de so shari bo jan ju sem ba jen bo de da shi ra je ba ru do chen ba sam mo la ba ja wo de ne jom de ne de nge zen de le shin jan ju sem ba jen bo la Wanju la lezo shi jawa lezo rige mo de shindo de shi sara juge tempo shindo shira je paru do shimbo samo la je barja de shi shabo nam ja je su yi ra mo chum den dige che ka se le se dan den ba shari da de anju sambo shimbo pamba shiri se wanju dan tam je dan tembe kor te da dan ha dan mi dan ha mai Gajebe jide yirang chumden deji sumbala gomba telo. Thus have I heard, once the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajgriha on Vulture's Peak,
together with a great assembly of monks and bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was totally absorbed in the concentration that examines all phenomena, called profound illumination. And at the same time, the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, was engaged in the profound practice of the wisdom gone beyond, analyzing the five aggregates by nature empty. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra spoke to the noble Avalokiteshvara, Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, how should those of good family learn who wish to follow the profound practice of the wisdom gone beyond? Thus he spoke, and the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, replied to the Venerable Shariputra, saying, O Shariputra, whatever son or daughter of good family wishes to follow the profound practice of the wisdom gone beyond should look at it like this, analyzing the five aggregates by nature empty. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is no other than form. Form is no other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, recognition, karmic formation, and consciousness are all empty. Therefore, Shariputra, all phenomena are empty without characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are neither impure nor free from impurity. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no recognition, no karmic formations, no consciousness. There is no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind. There are no spheres of the eyes, up to no spheres of the mind. There are none of these all the way up to the sphere of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance, nor is there destruction of ignorance. There are none of these all the way up to there is no old age and death, nor is there destruction of old age and death. Thus there is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no cessation of suffering, and no path. There is no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because there is no attainment, all bodhisattvas hold to the wisdom gone beyond, and because there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear. Passing utterly beyond falsity, they reach beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times, so relying on the wisdom gone beyond, wholly and clearly awakened to unsurpassed, most perfect and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the wisdom gone beyond, the mantra of great insight, the unequaled and unsurpassed mantra, the mantra that calms all suffering should be known as the truth, for there is no deception. The mantra of the wisdom gone beyond is proclaimed. Oh Shariputra, this is how Bodhisattva Mahasattva should learn the profound wisdom gone beyond. Then the Blessed One arose from that concentration and praised the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, very good, O son of good family. It is exactly like that. The profound wisdom gone beyond should be practiced exactly as you have said, and then the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Shariputra, the noble Avalokiteshvara, the whole gathering in the world with its gods, men, anti-gods, and spirits, their hearts full of joy, praise the words of the Blessed One. So in the noble discourse on the essence of the wisdom gone beyond. Thank you. Now we resume our Sunday class on the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment. This is a series of trainings for individuals of the three scopes, as I have mentioned before. And there is a purpose rationale behind these trainings, as I have said before, the purpose of the trainings is to bring about the well-being of all sentient beings, and that well-being is understood both in the temporary and the ultimate sense. So we train in the great treatise of the stages of the path to enlightenment with these two purposes, the temporary and the ultimate. And temporary, insofar as the goals are temporary, are benefits in this life, the achievement of that which we desire in this life, as well as in subsequent lives.
냠슬랑 고고에 된데다 딘나네 베티 잠주 람리를 버도 냠슬랑 고고 여린다 당하나도 세디기 디기를 섬었다네 아니 잠주 람리를 벌라베게 고바디 여바레스 잠주 람리를 벌랍세야 다 가주 베 냠레 세 마오지 제바 이바이나 양 아니 세 치메 전화 섬었당 도가지 거래 손을
But the purpose of the trainings in the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment cannot be said to be truly concerned with this life, our purposes in this life alone. At the bare minimum, for a training to be a training in the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment, it must be at least concerned with subsequent lives and not merely our purposes and ends in this life.
이다 치마니게 나는 치매 현재를 삼보당 투진 직제 이 나는 다랑가 신이 돼저 고버 주베들라 랑이 되는 주베다 신이 고버 주베 니요 안 대나는 랑이 되는 주바디 아니 장주 라면 집에 고버 말해 근데 장주 라면 랍터섬 지는 고버디 아니 가서 신이 되는 주야 오 신된 주바 랑다 신이 이게 나는 신된 주베 아니 고바 또 체냐니 냠슬랑 고요 딜레tin 토선 고스무 치고요 레송로지
And so as in the trainings on the in the trainings of the great treatise in the stages of the path to enlightenment, which at a bare minimum is concerned with subsequent lives and not merely this life alone. Similarly, there is the well-being of oneself and all others. And these two are both concerns. However, for the training to be a training in the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment, principle is the well-being of others rather than one's own self-interest. And so concern and commitment to the well-being of others and listening, contemplation, and meditating as trainings to bring about the well-being of others are central concerns for practitioners of the great treatise.
뭐니 부터 다들어라세 오덴다 아니 이시 주고니 부디 아니 주고세를 안 돼 주고세래서 부시데 된데서
So the ultimate purpose of the trainings in the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment is the well-being of others. And the well-being of others is carried out by, of the four Buddha bodies, three Buddha bodies, the form or the form body, the Sambhogakaya body, and these three bodies are dedicated to the well-being of sentient beings. That is the Rupakaya, Sambhogakaya, and for the accomplishment of the ultimate purpose of oneself is accomplished. The nature body or truth body is one's own well-being, the achievement of one's own well-being, and this entails Nirodha and the wisdom body.
도대체 제단 다 뒤인데 아주 다 도제 타도데 남리 교선 제백에 도제 타도데 가르스나 꾸시게레스 디나네 조 신뢰지 꾸니데레 어디제 다 된데인데 다 아주 남리 교선 제발 때니다 간다르 도제 타도 신뢰지 꾸시도 그걸 제발라 아니 두 아니 가르라고 했으나 그 탑시니가 보여레스 어디서
So the ultimate purpose of the great treatise is to achieve of the four bodies, of the four Buddha bodies, these two principal Buddha bodies that carry out the well-being of others. Of the four Buddha bodies, there is cause for the achievement of these. These causes are method and wisdom.
자, 아니 전주구슴, 구도 전주구슴 러버야디, 아니 타비찰라 러버, 변단 전주구슴 러버서 러버디, 아니 시라그 차서 람탑시 니서 팅이레스.
And so really the achievement of the ultimate purpose is brought out by method and wisdom, brought on by method and wisdom. The method aspect is the aspect of conventional bodhicitta. The wisdom aspect is the aspect of ultimate bodhicitta.
Oh, lam tabshini la labya ke tundala ani manzo ta ta kesan manzo ta tiba chimbo ta tiba chungo se tiba chijung ke geja yongya da ani chujogo tawe ke namsha shirabu chagi namsha shiondu ani tunda ke namsha shiyadi ta dikiri yungu yore yesu dashi.
And so in training in method and wisdom, the trainings in method and wisdom differ between the foundation vehicle and the great vehicle, the Mahayana. And within the wisdom aspect, there is diversity in the philosophical systems as well.
Oh, to say that they do manzo yum fesan manzo 가진 거 거래 이게 되시 예도 삼바다 yum 시럽이 바로도 침바세 yum 시럽이 바로 침바세 좀 내대기 아니 최봉 딱 간주를 왜 자다 숨이요 왜 나는 아니 숨제찍 뭐 야도 숨도 숨도 숨는 건데 숨제찍이 아니 가슴 때 이게 밀라 아니 가슴고스나 윤기 도스 그래 아니 몸에 되는 게 또 시그레스 아니 제가 뒤인도 아니 디나 갈 때면서 뭐 그때도 힘들겠다 땡저 또뒤 무슨 때야디 돈이도 베셔라고 때저 도제 슈라 아니 돈이도 베셔라디 합시 장주 샘지 샘벽고는 냠내 제단 시험도 아니 탑이 차스 제단 어디니 때저 또 조제 또 등이 차대요 그래서
One kunzo dan yum shirak kar chaba yamda nigaro
minchi kware
la
ngombe dollar
ngombe do
yumi dollar yumi do sa
ngombe zo
좀 죄세 가
ngombe do la
나는 돈을 봐
la
근데 죄 뭔가 생각이 되나 내려 렌즈 나 내려
There's a class of the Buddha Vachana, the teachings of the Buddha, that are called the Mother Prajnaparamita Sutras. The Mother Prajnaparamita Sutras are a group in the Buddha Vachana, the teachings of the Buddha, a group of teachings. If you were to divide the say some 103 volumes of the Buddha Vachana, the teachings of the Buddha, in the three parts. One of these parts is this group of teachings, the Mother Prajnaparamita. And the Mother Prajnaparamita, this class of sutra teachings, directly teach emptiness and inferentially, or rather implicit within the teachings, explicitly on emptiness, implicit within these teachings are also the method aspect, that is how to conjoin one's training with the mind of enlightenment, bodhicitta.
다 돈이 용기 대응모스 용코랑 용모스 때문에 제자 돈이 또베기 아니 람조 전에 신이도 가마 아니 오메 되죠스 그래서 람디 답시 니가 나는 또 창조 그 생기 또 냠내 지당 모스 때 때문에 아니 된주 강했다 된주다 또 가리나 되들라 아니 가르스나 바로도 집에 또 된주 벌어지면 또 쓰그래 어디를 뭐 시험을 해서
The Madhyamaka texts and the Prajnaparamita texts are two classifications of texts for the Buddha Vachana and the Buddha Shastra. That is, the words of the Buddha and the commentaries on the word of the Buddha. The Mother Prajnaparamita Sutras, which explicitly and directly teach emptiness, in their shastric companion are Madhyamaka. That is, the Madhyamaka is the Shastra commentary on emptiness as the explicit meaning found in the Prajnaparamita Sutras.
아니 슈가 가르때였으나 아니 자주 있습니다. 냠매지다 때여로 제단다 용기 저기 아니 슈가 때문에 된디 아니 다 버진지 값으로 아니 저저 소치니 시기 열었어. 제가 배경 원도 지를 봤어요. 배경 원도 지를 봤는데 저저 소치니 시기 열었대. 시기들라 아니 버진지 봤어요. 다 어디 돈이 지를 봐. 저저 소치니 시험이들라 아니 오면 되지. 오늘 어디에 있는 건수가 저요. 다 이제 다 뒤나네 다 되게 다 러베 다 밖에 중 디모도 되지. 다 랍서들라 배낭도 다다 티고 멤버레이나 아니 연투다 한게스 이샤르 이래서 대나시 티고 치볼라야 바로도 집에 티고다 나지 티고 어디에 티고 나로래 티고들라 배자들이 시도를 해서
The great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment is in the commentarial tradition concerned with the method aspect, with method, the mind of enlightenment. In the Mother Prajnaparamita Sutras, the direct and explicit subject matter is the wisdom of emptiness, whereas the implied teaching within this is the method aspect, bodhicitta. So implicit in the Mother Prajnaparamita Sutras is the wisdom aspect, the mind of enlightenment. In the Mother Prajnaparamita Sutras, that which is explicit is the wisdom of emptiness. In the commentarial tradition, when the wisdom of emptiness is made explicit in the commentarial tradition, this is the Madhyamaka. And so this is an introduction into the categories of Buddha Vachana and Shastra. Now, in the foundational school, in the Hinayana school, there are two principal categories within this, that of the Shravakayana and the Pratyeka Buddhas, the Shravakas and the Pratyeka. Within the Mahayana, the great vehicle, two categories, the Prajnaparamita and the secret Mantrayana. Well, the Prajnaparamita vehicle and the secret Mantrayana vehicle.
You part of the Jimbe, take what I love you to think your head. That you part of the Jimbe, take what I love it, that Chicanado, Gia Mabur in the sauce and Sanji go on to it, think your and not Tibelula, and in pay that you son so chummy, you son, and it's such a logic to the Sanji and you go Sanji, how long to the temple, and not what is to the Tungu your response.
Within the great vehicle, the Mahayana, these two vehicles within the Mahayana, the Prajna Paramita vehicle and the secret Mantrayana vehicle, have slightly different premises in. The causal vehicle, the Prajna Paramita, entails many eons worth of the accumulation of merit, which ultimately culminates in the achievement of Buddhahood. Whereas the Mantrayana vehicle, the resultant Mantrayana vehicle, takes as its starting point considerable merit, and in one lifetime, in one body, the achievement of Buddhahood is conceivable.
근데 이제 나는 아주 람림다 저선 고도 셔봐 이제 람림이 티바침 비춰 근데 저 티바침 뭐 이나양 팽게 말에 간사 티바침 무슨 거고 열었어 근데 간사 티바침 무슨 얘기 아니 간데 차고서는 다 꿀웅 도네 아니 소소리 하게 꿀웅 쥐도 아니 티바침도 꿀웅도 쥐어버렸어 쥐도 잠바 다 랑이 쥐 년바 퇴바가 냠도 랑바다 가르고 가르치게 여바 이나양 자와 간데시 룽아 예수님 저바 간데시 여바 이나 대탐지 아니 굴룽기 셈베토네 아니 티바침에 쳐서 좋아져 거래 제가 이제 딱 굴룽 간데시 쳐버렸어도 가상도 본도 주자 굴룽 저도 해봐 아니 말씀 제 탐지가 또 사지지 고반 토벌 차기 이제 탐지 대화도 대마 지기 동해도 타워 지기 대터월 제외치도 안에 산지지 고반 토구도 삼바지 이제 뭐심도 돈네 삼로 땅 굴룽 삼나 되게 쥐어이나 아니 다 티바침도 굴룽 쥐어서 차를 해서
Now, in the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment, in listening, contemplation, and meditation upon these trainings, though the text itself is a Mahayana text, that is merely the text, a Mahayana text. The practitioner, the individual practicing the trainings must also be a Mahayanist. And in order for this individual to be a Mahayanist, they must have a fitting intention. And the proper intention then, whether one is listening, whichever sort of practice one is engaged in body, speech, and mind, the proper intention is, as I've mentioned before, to commit oneself for the well-being of all mother sentient beings to the personal achievement of Buddhahood. This is the commitment to personally establish sentient beings in their lasting contentment, to personally part sentient beings from the causes of their despair. Sentient beings need happiness and to be separated from the causes of their suffering. And so I must myself achieve Buddhahood to bring this to pass. And this attitude is the proper intention for such a training.
법적 구시 토발라 라무시라베 가르스나 자주 셈니르 어딜러버 제발라 자주 셈 귤레 제버 제발라 오마랑 베 유디 덴버 제베기 유 아니 소남고 쏘다 이시 쏘사고 요 대사버 제베 치돌라 아디나네 소 소남지 쏘사베 치돌라 아니 저에 치주도 보고 요 먼저 저에 치주도 저 치주도 말아봐 아니 자주 셈 귤레 제 타메버 제가 대메버 인다 당 저 치주도 로프도 셰고 요 셰마기 귤레 제바 셰바고 대치돌라 아니 저에 치주도 로프도 요레스 디나는 다 당당한도 저에 치 당보다 니바 송 수베기 안데셰 가도 있다 대간도 대셰 모시 잡다 가도 해서
For the achievement of the ultimate for Buddhabhadis, one must actually, in the actual practice, generate both minds of enlightenment. In order to generate the mind of enlightenment, one's own continuum must have accumulated sufficient merit and wisdom. For the accumulation of sufficient merit, one engages in the 6 preliminary practices. And without an engagement in these 6 preliminary practices, the production of the mind of enlightenment would be impossible. So one trains in the 6 preliminary practices in order to develop the mind of enlightenment. Now, of these 6 preliminary practices, we have completed our description of the first and the second, and are now attending to the third.
모두다 강바상마 차사레 강배나라 된 고속도 된 잠사레 초바 샴사레 된 수주 대사게 된데 수사바레 다 된가라 대차레 대단 차상 제사레 되는다 굴웅죄 차 다 꿀lun주 산에 다 가르치고 그랬으나 다 jamru 치고요. 소신 jamru 치고 소신대 세답사를 소신 무슨 사례 다 가르치고 어떤 것이 jamru 치고 가는 딜레데요. 그래서
So we have cleaned the external environment. We have arranged offerings. We have set out a comfortable seat. We have taken the proper position on that comfortable seat. We have adjusted our mental intention. Having adjusted our mental intention, we have visualized the merit field. With this merit field visualized, we've come to the moment where we go for refuge.
도저히 다 근데 인도마다 그다음도 가르쳐서 다 랑이 등기 랑 민삼이 등기 탱알라 아니 소신이다 라마이 덤 산제 장선 보호 칸로 최종 수마가 같다라는 등이 나갈 세다면 꼬샤요레스 디오데라다 디데 냠돌라 디기다 수술 또 라마디게 세탑 답사게 티데라 아니 라마조 라랑이 심제기 등기 된주베기 차쟁이 되도 아니 최소하게 최군조되다 아니 부디기 남발라 여바체네 아니 라마 수수도 송고 주모데 수수 치르도 여바체 내지 세다고 해서
Now before us, at the height of our eyebrows, the point between our eyebrows, we have visualized the Guru and the Yidam and the Dakas and the Dakinis and the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas and the protectors. And principal among these individuals is the Guru. And all of these individuals, with their conditions and potential for carrying out the well-being of sentient beings, have to convey that qualification and ability to carry out the well-being of sentient beings, have before them the Buddha Vachana and Shastra, the scriptures of the Buddha Dharma. And before each of these individuals is the collection of the scriptures too.
도시 다리 넘버디 부디기 넘버 여바 인데지 당하나도 미기 통야 수주 통야 통비 통나라 부디기 넘버 여바에 대 모디 아니 가르는 바게 되게 부디 넘버를 맞아체 어디 최군조 뭐 이삼바 다 최군조 가서 모두 수주상도 최군조들 롱구 최군조도 도배 최군조와 이 나는 또 도배 최군조들 도배 최군조들 고된다 람데서 고된다 람데기 나 임발라 아니 나뭐 최부되게 나뭐 이거 대양 아니 왜다 세계를 하신데 만도지기 안직 거기 이제 추구도 다음에 차고도 내 상호단 용 말해서
The scriptures appear in the ordinary form of scripture. Their essence, however, is the essence of the Dharma gem. The Dharma gem is of two kinds, the Dharma of scripture and the Dharma of realization. Therefore, the essence of these scriptures that appear in the aspect of ordinary scriptures, their essence is Nirodha and the truth of cessation and the truth of the path. These two are the truth, the Dharma of realization. And these scriptures appearing this way with the essence of Nirodha and the truth of the path shouldn't be visualized as being actual and solid, but rather in the nature of light.
도시 다디 아니 수수고 다 메고다데 도 세보유나 라마 수수고 부디 직대스 망보유죠 부디 지가 두 뒤게 된데 요이나 아니 직 밖에 다는 거 빼지 샤간 타믹스 빼지로서 수수 빼지 가가셔서 타믹 어디래나 샤미 거지 난 부디 망보면은 아니 수수 뒤는 말 비등한 나도 뒤는 대비샤나 또 샤샤부터 미고 제나야 근데 제 여봐 제 보고 여봐지 라마 좀 송구 열어서
Now, if one is able to visualize in such a manner, one should visualize this collection of scriptures as being an arrangement of many scriptures together, 6, 7, 8 arranged together in an orderly way. And if one isn't able to visualize so many. One may simply imagine a single book, like the book we have before us. And this is the instruction of the Guru to visualize this way.
that this is it. That in a young Susugutan Semna, Komba Major, Gomja to say, Pogandachi Poetanang to Soshin Gomdan de la Senaco, Soshin Gomda de la Undu Nubulux, and Tadan Maduna Tosi Genia to Bands, Machik is Chixing. The comet was the Gomdan, that Lama Sunzu Midawa Yore, and a Susugu, Lola country share of Dema de Gonia, Congo at the day, Mambo Yongo.
Now each will be more or less accustomed to extensive visualizations like this. So insofar as you are accustomed and familiar with the extensive visualization, you may visualize this way. And in our tradition, we refer to the gem that is the collection of all the essence of all the Buddhas, and that may be the principal figure of one's visualization. Between various traditions and various teachers within those traditions, there are various visualizations as well.
Oh, yeah. Another position do the Raja Makoya di so Goba Kariorisana. Japsun Kujo Sunga ten Sawa. And Suzu Gomtria, the charging Chidola, and Toziche, and they are remembered as a Shavadi, and Kujo Sungi, and the Japsun Kundu, you won't turn to your thoughts and the and the Tozik go we are as
In these visualizations, one spiritual mentor is atop the next in lines of arranged spiritual mentors, and the purpose of this extensive visualization with one individual atop the next in this way is to contain all the perfect refuges, the triple gem, the three jewels, all together. And so the levels in the visualization are for the purpose of collecting all the perfect refuges ultimately into one.
That then they said that they go down the Suzuki to Soshin Gomina and Soshin Gomdu, Tandanashin Gomna, Kiju in the Yore. Inayam, Suzuki, Gomna, Mila, and the Sundu Yore, and Suzuki Lola Shadu, one year, Gomna Chimba Yore, so do Chik Gomna Yang, Chobar, Lama do Chik Zodo, Suzuki Lamri, Lama Zodo, Chik, Dick, which have some good doing all of men, Gomna Inayam.
There are various methods for visualization. In the visualization of the merit field, there are diverse approaches. The approaches have in common this quality that all of the arrangement, however they are arranged, are for the purpose of concentrating the perfect refuges and the triple gem into one. And if it is the case that visualizing one principal individual as the collection of all perfect refuges is accessible, this may be what you undertake. If that individual is perhaps the instructor in the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment, and is recognized as a collection of all perfect refuges, that is appropriate, and that will be the basis for quick and successful production of realization.
Oh, yeah, that's another mean tone the wish, and put the tone the view, and then the correction and the tone, but let's see the you forget the tone, the dinner is sometime you I didn't do thing chitula, and do. Shaitan Shang, the Chever Madu, Mushi Kumdu Zamba, or the level to go you or Mares. Any young but a dog search our dog down by Jada, who say, but you jealous, but she was search at your tending me watching the end, come you or Mares. On a country's Gomores, and the dance wages on Hinche. Any wages on Hinche, and with Jalu is some of her conduct. Suzuki Sanji Kumo is some of 배가 sem나 좋아하다. 아니 또 돈하게 차가 여버체는 루스 공부를 해서
In the representations of the merit field and the personages, we find in tankas, we find a two-dimensional representation. It's flat, and our own visualization mustn't be like that. This is simply how it is shown within the limitations of two dimensions. And it isn't actually how we ought to visualize the merit field. And also representations as they are shown in other materials, stone and metal and the like. These two are not the basis for our sort of visualization. Our visualization takes place in the limpidity, the limpidness of light, limpid light in which there are rainbow bodies. And in the rainbow body, one recognizes one's actual Buddha, the actual Buddha, and the experience and the appreciation should be of the actual Buddha.
모두지 된데다 간다 공을 숨바 왜 바르다와 여기랑 신이 받대 내 삼보다는 공주제 벤티 빼도 아니 도와나는 이번에는 빼 된데다 간다 매일 일을 두고다고 서 매일 일을 두고다고 매기 그런 게 매망고 땅이 매망고에 땅 되게 두고 아니 매기 왜도 치료를 봐 여기 치료 한다 가서가 거대와 또 어디 또 스카 돼야 되는데 여마라 어디나 신체는 매기 일두가도 아니 매지 말기 땀바다 보서 말지 간다 매기 간다고 간다 수저도 아니 밖에 즉 당어들로 섀도우 있는 섀도우 줄로 여기 가서 가면 참고도 어디도 거래스 아니 샤브데 네 자친구 셀러 소바데 되게 나도 샤바 어디 되게 미과치는 공고래서 누가나야 컴퓨터에 빼데 숨이 어려서 그러지
빼데 너 양겨 찍소나
어야
Tadi haluan että me baro naisina de ani nöche de ani somewhere ki nöche digna luba naisina.
올레레레 어다네 당도 샤바다고 서 어디 밖에 네 자친구도 네 장마들이 좀 샤바 여러 나스 붙인다 우리 되는 샤바다 어디를 미버치는 거에 되는 배송이 그래서
The light of these bodies, as one visualizes them, is very radiant, and there are examples found in the Vinaya of how such a visualization might be done, in which the bodies are imagined to be like the flames of light offerings, and they radiate outwards just as the filament in a bulb from inside the bulb radiates light outwards. And so in the Vinaya, such an example is made of a flame in a light offering placed inside a container of precious substance, metal, some gold or silver or something of the light, and the light radiates outwards.
뭐야 태양다 안들 거기에 지 이제 주는 시험에 요구 아니 거기 지 만만 씹어 구버도 오는데 많이 봐 아니 거기 주는 계제 마시거든데 많이 봐또 간다도 소신도 강가 파도 배추 조링 제대로 최 시대봐 쭉 조링 제대봐 오 되게 셋업 아니 미버 쳐버 해서
And these individuals visualized in the merit field shouldn't be imagined as standing mutely, stupidly, silently, but back and forth engaged in discussion of the Dharma.
오이 배도 차샤바나 배제 불안한 배 가르샤스는 기부 불안 친구요 기부 불안 나와니 기부다 누구도 소로와 아니 파도 더 들린 지그레 아니 같이 야라는 파도는 부치로를 파지는 배 자와치는 용거를 같이 두 요는 아니 깨지 시기로 어디나 신전 수수 미고에서 드네 배 같이 강가 최 들린 제대보다 최셰대보다보다 아니 같이 파도대보 같이 두 폐대와 된대
An example is made of the palace of a king and all of the busy activity found there, where there are ministers and others in discussion with the king, and some are rising to leave and others are returning from some task. And so in the visualization too, these personages are engaged in discussion and lecture, and some are rising to depart, others are returning.
로여자 파도 년도도 semjegi tun치가 파 폐기 요가도 수 연년도도 semjegi 되지는 수 조이나 수 폐기 요가도 간다다 조신의 파 월드는 semjegi 되지 않는 수 조신의 땜치야 조명과 대해서 왔어.
And those individuals who are rising to depart to carry out the well-being of sentient beings, and those who are returning from just such an engagement, and this is a visualization where light radiating to carry out the well-being of sentient beings radiates outwards and then is collected again inwardly, drawing back that.
어떻게 딱 안에 수수고 미박이 전화 안에 다 미박 가지고 야심 붙이는 제 열에서 가서 수배나 만족이다 되나 산지기 배 법을 보고 탐제네 아니 배 세트 델레베스 소신 먹고 아니 심지기 되지 양수 두 소신나 두 뒤지기 어다 제마 땡이지 제 자야 미국도 비야 편다가 수수고 간단해 생부터는 명언도는 바망고 주를 미과체 바망고 주 뒤들이 제거들 아니 제마 수수고 있다 냠내 체 토벌도 아니 땡이지 미과자야 내게 냠내 된다 간단해 장무고 열해서
In one's visualization, the more extensive and vivid the visualization, the better. For in actuality, the visualization and the activity is of the Buddha's very body, and each of its innumerable pores radiating light, and the light radiated from the every last pore of the Buddha's body takes form as a merit field itself, and the merit field itself radiates light, carrying out the well-being of sentient beings, and then recollects that light, and then that merit field is withdrawn again into the very pore of the Buddha's body, and the visualization therefore may be extraordinarily extensive. And when one visualizes accordingly a simulacrum of this, then one is exercising one's own talent and skill in samadhi, such that eventually one may actualize this skill in samadhi when one has realized a very high level of practice.
Lama 타고도 산지에다 장류 선바가 보고 주주서 뭐 가리유가 있는 데다 탐지 아니 직하게 직 간다 초에 남아지 많이 막 공부사들이고 남아는 뭐왜 가는 시시 두바 대야랑 또 예배 주지 주술을 예부 유배 주지 남아 유바 디직세 다라니 장 소식이 연된 때문에 권한이 군조로 보신데 달라ppe 마테바 매바 아니 베셈나 가지 들어와 근데 더 아니 도신기랑 니에바다 랑게 양배 군조로 구입해주고 진짜 놈이가 최고로 해서
In this radiant assemblage, centermost is one's spiritual mentor, one's guru, and surrounding one's guru are the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, the Dakas and the Dakinis, the protectors. And the aspect that they display is pacific rather than wrathful. Pacific and pacified is their aspect, and they are pleased and delighted by the visualization that the meditator carries out. And so their aspect is one of delight, and the aspect of the meditator is of veneration and respect for the merit field.
어떻게 제가 조진 남자를 하나 개비 수지 있다. 그래서 저주 코로나 책디어 조신 남자 하나 개비 수지 있다. 조신도 하나 개비 수다 개비 수된 거에 균센저 오지. 삼모 단계 임바이나 주제 삼당 우여서 땅 우여 가지나 따지당 만나서 군족이 이거는 예버 쳐야 돼. 왜 깔래 가고요. 가르쳐서나 군족이 만조라 치세디 만조 군족 치세디 만조 제요 말 군족이 마치 세디 만조 제요 제가 이리 다 군족을 예바듯이 군족 예보 용해디 얘가 유유로 깔라카보와 있나 양 단에 만조 따대 남빙을 남기를 말아 로지초 남기를 뭐 조신지 세다 곰 배창주쌤 고매하게 된다라 아니 저의 치료고 냠내도 고도 아니 조신도 제한장 세다고 인자 아니 군족 예배 되지 중화를 해서
Now, the text itself describes the visualization of the merit field as delighting the Buddhas. Delighting the Buddhas, there's a reason why it is described as being delightful. Ordinarily, our activities are not delightful to the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. Ordinarily, we do just that which they ask us to avoid, and we fail to do that which they enjoin us to do. And so, however, this moment of visualizing the merit field, inviting the merit field, visualizing the merit field, this is a rare moment where our activities accord with the intentions of the Buddha. So it is one of those rare moments. We have visualized the merit field, and the visualization of the merit field is for the ultimate purpose of accumulating the merit, which will be linked to the process of developing bodhicitta. And so the invitation of these personages and the visualization of the merit field as part of the 6 preliminary practices.
다 그러나 빼도 가르쳐야겠으면 아니 맞아 뒤에 파마라 내산치마다 보도 요가 예배나 아니 보지 랑이 밤에 가르치는 많이지 뒤에는 저번에 뭐 제대에 되는 그 가지를 치에 냐면요 근데 이 미직 아니 파마서부터 뒤에 거기다 지금 말해서 있잖아 거기다 야가 지금 말해서 구나 콩로도 열다 다 이놈이 있나요 거기 아니 주제 찍라 아니 거기 찍 밤에 칼라니 뭐지 아니 밤에 왜 가오지 아니 즉 수족 내가 야보도 제가 있나 아니 밤에 되기 뒤에 두제 지기 여가 있나야 드린 거 야보 제발 때문에 아니 뒤에 야보 신경이야 가와 용해 야보 되지도 대난 신지 드린 거 저거 군조 예버체 되지 거 중요해서
Another example is of a family where the parents ask their children to be obedient, but there's a child who simply never listens and always misbehaves, and a time comes when the parent fully expects the child to continue to misbehave, and naturally the parent is a bit disappointed. But at this rare moment, the child listens and is obedient and then does something constructive, just as the parent asks, and they do a good job. And this moment for the parent who anticipates disobedience is an incredibly satisfying and pleasant moment. And so this moment is like that.
뭐야 다들 제가 다다는 거 소신난 게 아니라 예배 출땡 땡세저로 다 땡세 간다로데 선무 당당로도 대대식 선무권 대대식 지시 정의 직시 양지시 정의직 군조가 간줄로다 직 예버 제약이 간줄이다 가도 제요 말데 이나야다 군조가 심정이 좁여가 된다라 아니면 왜 예배 출땡 말해서 오늘다 예배가 가도 제요 말에 얘기 말할 때 이나양 개비 수입된 거래서 양념의 지당들이 직송이지 요래서 어디 빼대 다짐다 남미도 변한 부수수 파마틱 보고디 또 야고 자야가 된다라 또 거기 저번에 버전에 선나온다 콘도 요때 임바이나양 아니 거직 수쿠야 답시 된다라 아니 직 남유 야고 때 아니 콜로지 개보시 대대전 보고 수쿠야 저거 근데 저러고 어디 천도라고 전에 아니 상계도 전주 삼바족이야 마란도 상계 요즘 예배가 내가 제요 말때 이나양 아니 권한족이 두 마란도 샘쟁이 되는 교배가 지도라니 개배 수입된 말했어. 대대 그 삼주리 아니면 숭이 된데 여러 손으로.
So the text as it describes the visualization of the merit field describes the response of the merit field to the visualization as being one in which the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas and the personages display the aspect of being satisfied and delighted by the visualization. So I've given you one explanation for why it is the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas show this aspect of being delighted by the visualization, that it's a rare moment in which the wayward child is obedient. However, there's another explanation too, and that is that the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas may not be actually so delighted at all, but for the purpose of protecting vulnerable sentient beings, they show the aspect of being delighted by them. Just as a parent who anticipates misbehavior and is a bit peeved about it, will maybe momentarily show a pleasant aspect to the child and speak sweetly to the child in hopes that the child will be responsive. So in the same way here, the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas are actually not necessarily so delighted, but in order to protect the well-being of sentient beings, they show this aspect. This is another explanation given by some teachers.
제부 장주고 톱제게 람나 로 장주고 셈 무시 장주고 셈나 로베 치도라 모두 조얼라 좀바 되기 조얼라 때네 안에 산제는 투제버 중요바 어딘데 지금 미바 체네 안에 산제다 뉴선바 탐제다 소신 가르지만 되게 강하라 만예베 지가 매바 예바 지게 남바제도 공유체 오야 다데 어디 미바 직식이세 다디네 가르지는 다디네 잠도 깨고 잠도 줄래 깨고 잠도 제가 깨버렸어요. 잠도 줄라 깨발라 잠도 줄라 깨지기 주 이랑이 인지미지 모션에 유디 drugur was oy da de drugur da ane da jamru jela chidang to da choga khari to ba ina da le khari to ba ina jamru chiku yores jamru chiku yore jamru chidang me do ma wo yore so.
Now, in any case, today, as we visualize the merit field, all part of the process of the 6 preliminary practices for the purpose of developing the mind of enlightenment in order to ultimately achieve the mind, Bodhi mind itself. We engage in these 6 preliminary practices, and in the visualization, we visualize the merit field and all its personages as being delighted. This is the aspect that the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas and all the rest of the merit field show. They are delighted and satisfied by the visualization. And with this as the visualization, we then proceed to developing the mind that goes for refuge. In order to develop such a mind, one must accomplish the causes that lead one to go to refuge. One has to accomplish these causes. And so whether one is engaged in a ritual liturgy or any other sort of virtuous practice, and there are many sorts of ways in which one goes for refuge, in all of these cases of practice, one will go for refuge. And so we are concerned with that here.
jamru jula kye yudi sangorosida judela ta kariyoresna jamru jula kye yudela ta kandar rang dunge kandar ta dunge gi jibale kowe gi dungele jishi trapa kowe dungele jishi trapa de jimi ji koros jikwaje yibadi ani dunge tele kyobe yobadi kunjolo yoba yicheba.
So one has invited the personages of the merit field and visualized the whole arrangement of a merit field, and then one goes for refuge. And as one goes for refuge, for that refuge to be meaningful, there must be the causes for going for refuge. These are required. And the first cause for going to refuge is fear of the suffering that one experiences personally in cyclic existence. It is fear and terror of the myriad sufferings of cyclic existence. So this is the first, that fear. And the second is the confident faith that the protector is able to protect one from such suffering and such fear.
Oh yeah, that Jojo Corona Lama Lava Najina, Toshim Namja Ranila, Ranila gave it Sudan Chigresma, Rani Jan Toshim Namji, Tujita, Yende Chebe, Teba Chimbo Manes, the can't share the needs. Ta Karichiguresna, the Gala, Tanazo Karichiguresna, Mazo Tanda, then Chu Lamrim, the Tosun Lomi Chigi by Yindu. 아니 잠부 깨야지 가르쳐 티버 침비 잠부 깨버렸어. 다 티버 침비 잠부 깨발라 아이 유니디 강라 단다 규칙 사업 가르쳐 버렸으나 아니 심제 탐제는 인제와 심제 랑 동에 미드바 동에를 대고 유반나시 심제 탐제의 동에를 대고 버려 집어지기하래 규제 직과래 제단대의 심제 탐제 동에를 대고도 사배 인지디 이 규순의 상소나 아니 티버 침비 잠부 잘해요.
In the description of visualization of the merit field and subsequent going for refuge, the merit field is described as showing the aspect of being delighted by the meditator visualizing the merit field, and the individual visualizing the merit field is filled with an appreciation and confident faith in the merit field, in recognition of the merit field's great qualities. Now, in the tradition of the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment, in the study, contemplation, and meditation upon it, as this is a Mahayana training, in addition to the two principal causes described above, there is a third Mahayana cause for going for refuge, and this is great compassion. This is the third cause required for the refuge to be Mahayana refuge. It is the recognition that just as each individual wishes to avoid, we ourselves wish to avoid suffering. This is true for all other vulnerable sentient beings. And so I will separate them from their suffering. And this attitude is great compassion. And this is the third cause.
Oi, sidan da jojo ani dana ngod jojo dinan jihi jin mango do jojo khana ya los ne che peje de adina ne shugu isto ben dana ngod jojo ti jibu nyane che je do shugu de tepchin ju de shugu skinje soni so do o de de jojo khana jibu nyane che so nyane che han de peje so do yore so.
This is part of the 6 preliminary rites, the 6 preliminary practices, and the 6 preliminary practices are described in various ways. Even here I have a text that is some 33 pages set aside to the specific practices of the 6 preliminary rites. So I have this separate text about this length, 33 pages, dedicated to just these 6 preliminary practices.
Oh, to start 단단한 주 당고 시야 되다 주 당고 가르쳐서 직바 시야 돼 가르스나 단어도 윤전 따다지 소신 되게 세다 되지 아니 다 가르쳐서나 다 당보랑이 동에 삼모와 동에 삼모라 동에 모션 거로 와서다 다다 말씀제 탐제 통마에 받는 다다 투지 바도 통마에 받는 다다 바도 지르코하게 동에 예송은 지라도 예송 동에 베텐데 나도지 용차 단다바도 용차와 되게 돼 삼로직다 모션 받지 아니 다 동이야 아니 다 동에 뭐만 용차죠 되게 양교 동에 양 먹고 차 여러 했으나 뒤에 팬토요 말해 단도 동에 네가지 용고를 단도에 동에 용야를 세 네가지 여러 되게 최종 네가지 양고를 장가 네가지 양고서 세다 되도 요마 근데 양가 세도 요마 단도 동에 뭐만 양교 되게 마음을 동에 양 거쳐 요마 단도 마음을 동에 장매번 양고고 여러 그다음에 동에 들을 양은 지금은 들을 타와 지기 삼백이다 동에 모션 받지 동에 모션은 동에를 팔아야 탑시 때 맞아 여러와 뭐 지시 잡았다 고 동에는 지시 짜네 대라 탐도 불러 깨버치 오요라 오야 어디 아니 잠도 그 당부지 아 조르지나 시나 어디 되지 그래서 남마대 참
The causes for going for refuge then are these two or three. And the first, fear. The reason fear is a requirement and the cause for going for refuge is described. We visualize the merit field, have it before us, and then what one should contemplate is that one has experienced tremendous suffering, and that this suffering is beginningless, as cyclic existence has been beginningless. From beginningless time until the present, each one of us has experienced generally cyclic experiences, myriad sufferings, and in particular, the specific sufferings of the lower realms. One contemplates this and recognizes that this immeasurable myriad suffering from beginningless samsara until present isn't really quantifiable, and that unquantifiable suffering is also yet to come. And so, as it has been immeasurable, and that which is to come in terms of suffering is unquantifiable, there must be a moment where we decisively say, I will liberate myself from this. And so, the familiarization with suffering as suffering, and then the recognition that one must liberate oneself from this suffering, and then the mind that aspires to liberate itself from suffering, this is the requirement and preliminary, and this is the fear required for going for refuge.
Oh, this one. That and they done 먼저 동해 되게 뭐는 동해 되가 전용 차를 다 동해 될레베 뭐그 마와 냥고야 되게 내주지나 안에 어디 지금 미도선 다들 동해는 동해 뭐시 동해 집버전 다탑 가르쳐 오르다 다 동해들 타고 왔어. 다 타래 탑 가리어레스 두어디들 균제 두어디레스 다 타래 탑 가리어레스 다 탑도 시험도 네 다 드링 마랑도 수술다 스파마서 두고 치료를 못 하지 누구들랑 저다 드링 랑라 대적 자친구 메뉴 자친구 데스토 저라도 나머지 집에 싫었다 때 아니 산재기 때마다 제 아니 최시비 계획신의 집에 뒤도 상부 딜라 다 가르치 두고 그래서 다 가르치 두고 그래서나 아니 동해 되게 타르 타도 랑이 치투 그래 어디 치도나 아니 다 랑이 타네 다 리퍼지 팀니 아니 다네 자주 라브는 라브 되는 동해 영모가 치투가 탑시 제구도 다 탑시에 가와도 때도 아니 탑에 가와를 열었나 아니 क्या punjo sumbu क्या punjo sumbu 되기 거기 그 동해는 껴두고 이어봐 아니 다네 랑이 시험 받지 시험에 되는 이치 대박 오야 대박 되기 아니 다 깨어도 아니 다 좀 그다고 깨버려 예수님이죠.
Then one recognizes that suffering has been tremendous, and tremendous suffering is still to come, and this is no good, and one must liberate oneself from such bondage to such insufferable cyclic existence. And so this is the recognition of suffering, and the recognition of suffering will entail great terror at the prospect of continued suffering. And then the mind will wish to be liberated from cyclic existence, and then will look for some method, some means for escaping the bondage of cyclic existence. And when looking for a means to escape, it won't do any good to look outwardly, but one must point inwardly and find in oneself sufficient and extraordinary conditions for achieving this liberation from the bondage of cyclic existence. And these conditions are contained in the precious human rebirth with its leisures and endowments, with its native intelligence, with the opportunity that has followed of encountering the teachings of the Buddha and actually encountering spiritual mentors who instruct in the Buddha Dharma. With all of these conditions present, then, we ask ourselves, what can we do now to ensure that we liberate ourselves from cyclic existence? And concentrating our intelligence and looking for the right means and method for achieving this liberation, we find the conditions met in the triple gem, the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha. The Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha are able to protect us from the sufferings of cyclic existence. With this recognition, we develop confident faith in the three gems, and this development of confident faith in the three gems is the second cause.
다 대마제바이나는 가르치그레스 랍자는 양조 코알 마 코르게 코알 코르바이나 동에 뭐만 양화나 지고 다 동에 부모나는 양 제교를 모두 코 탑신바요 말레스 제단다 근데 인도 담았다 이 데이터다 향이 쉐를 거네 아니 꺄분조선바 꺄죄네 아니 랑기다 가르치고 그랬으나 꺄분조선을 꺄죄네 아니 랑기 나르사베 딕바 딕벨레 가리는 되게 파 아버지 이거 서서도 마사 이거 사이 고드파캡 아니 서도 마사바이나 아니 퀄리티에다 그 등에게 거야 요말 등에게 유대 제가 그거 까차레스 까차도 좀 많이 다 맞아 다 타바스기다 타바 톱생다 퀄 타르베 대화스기도 왔다 디네 톱에 디네 고쪽으로 해서
And these two causes, fear and faith, when they are present, then begin the process of protection and liberation from cyclic existence beginning. Without fear and faith, one will simply tumble again into cyclic existence, and the aggregates will continue to experience over and over again the sufferings of cyclic existence. So one recognizes the qualities of fear and faith as the causes for refuge, and then one entrusts oneself to the refuge and protection of the three gems. And with the entrustment of one's own prospects to the three gems, one begins the process too of purifying all the negativities for which one is responsible in their past, and also preventing new non-virtues from occurring. When these two are achieved, the purification of non-virtues of the past and the complete prevention of any new non-virtues, then the process of bringing an end to cyclic existence and its suffering has well begun, and suffering in the future is no longer necessary. And we then begin to speak of the satisfaction and contentment of achieving liberation from the bondage of cyclic existence. This begins in this way.
오야 딱 구조로 산 때는 디버샵에 디버드 가리샤오스는 잠루 치는 샤오. 다 말씀진을 때는 디버사샤에나 아니 닝지도 잔주스는 장데 잔주스는 게는 디버샤오라스. 제가 대인들다 잠루디 아니 디버샤게다 때 개체주 직차 요바탕 아니 다르라기 잠루 제바이나 아니 배윤데 되게 요바데랑 템베고네
Now, the non-virtues for which one is responsible will be one of two kinds. either non-virtues that arise based upon actions done towards the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, or non-virtues done towards sentient beings, ordinary sentient beings. To address the non-virtues accumulated through one's activities toward the Buddhas, one goes for refuge. To address and purify the negativities accumulated in actions done towards ordinary sentient beings, one practices compassion and develops bodhicitta as the method for purifying these. So here, to address negativities done toward the Buddhas, one goes for refuge. This is the purpose of going for refuge, and we consider the benefits of going for refuge and then practice accordingly.
Oh yeah, that in a Jambu Sidan de la you know the Mang Terror, Sange shot the budget on what Sanju but Dag Dollar in the Sanja Dova Japson, Jambu Sidan, that is Yondato, Tire. That and then the Lamrim got to the Jambu Shibutamba, and Des Jambu Sidan. Any Lama the job show, Sanja the job show, children, Gidu job shows, quote the distance, cigarettes.
Now, ordinarily, as we go for refuge, the most common recitation of the verses of going for refuge I go for refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha until enlightenment. By my practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I achieve Buddhahood for the well-being of all sentient beings. This is the ordinary recitation. However, in the context of the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment, the order and the recitation differs slightly in that one begins with I go for refuge to the glorious Guru. I go for refuge to the Buddha. I go for refuge to the Dharma. I go for refuge to the Sangha.
Oh, to study the Cambridge do the Matana, Lamrim to the Cambridge do the Mamiwa Chia, can the Songaresna, and it run that Cambridge go to me to that. But go to me to the Susu, and it's look at Tagola, ranking Mata, Pata, Simjing, so John and Tube, Simje, Tamje. And the rank Tawola, Yuba, Tamo, the best, me what you done of the Karisna, and the Kandartat, Yuba, Tian, Dora ranking more, Penang, me, the big numbers and much go Yuba, Lama, Yeva, that to look Hariba in a Susu, to me, Yonshiba, Haribu Lulang Shaban, Tiara, Yishiba, and this is Yiba more than the Yiba Chila, and that. Kandis some towers na Jambu Chevetse, and in Ganga that Suzuki Jambu Chevan Shimazo, Jambu Chi Shingi Yobata. Any Suzuki Jambu Chidu Konduka Jambu Chigi Yoba. Or Kondu Rangi Tomba Demanaji, Konduka Den Shigi Yoba, Rangi, Pake Kaji Shevan, Kondu She Shigi Yoba, the Rigi Biba Cheni, and the Jambu Chevores, the Cheva Yina, and the Simjing Tanda Nyambegi, Rangi Jambu Chidu. Semjing Tanda Nyambegi, Jambu Chevi, Pin to be at the Sungo Resum.
Now, in the visualization, according to the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment, the visualization and the activity of going for refuge involves each one, himself, herself, their self, beginning the process of going for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha. And in the visualization, each one, their self, begins the process of going for refuge and begins the recitation of the verses of going for refuge. And surrounding each one are all sentient beings. And all sentient beings are, in their essence, just as they are as human beings. If they're human beings, they're experiencing the suffering of human beings. If they're hell beings and preta, or if they're devas, they're experiencing the suffering of such beings. This is their essence. However, they are too, as one goes for refuge, just as we know the verses of going for refuge, just as we know what it entails, just as we are aware that we are reciting verses of going for refuge, so too do all of these sentient beings that surround us also know that they are going for refuge. They also know the verses just as we know them. They are aware and going for refuge just as we are. And so surrounding us are all innumerable sentient beings, intelligently and self-aware, going for refuge. And when one visualizes in this manner, then the merit of every last sentient being going for refuge is achieved by each one of us ourselves.
간다라 수술 미과 치료 담바 아니 지 수술하니 semje tenda de jamro ko ba koini ani pe page ta todo de insam ani konzo kan susu chidu kan ga chigi yusam de miwa chigi che ta chidu tamba ta lami ka do miwa chidu tamba ani jamro shanda da miro ta lami ka do lama ina lama ge ming de mo su me ne ani lama le jamro chidan kapsanchik ani sangye le jamro chidan kapsanchik 아니 디네 추를 jambu치다 강아지 아니 기도를 jambu치다 강아지 아니 jam부 지도 잠바 미과 체야다 아니 디과 타야다 디과 샤야다 두지베자 체야 두가가 때때데 미라요 봐 어디데지 요래 손이지.
Now in this visualization, the visualization involves each individual as they start the process of the visualization and the recitation, recognizing that they themselves are the initiator of this process of going for refuge, and all others surrounding them are following suit. And as one does this, one begins then by reciting the name, giving the name of one's guru, spiritual mentor, and then going for refuge to the Buddha and to the Sangha, and to the Dharma and to the Sangha. Each of these each one, the refuge gone, each time, each one separately, and then this is done separately and differently as the descent of the nectar from each of these refuges is different, and the process of purification is slightly different. So one goes for refuge to the Lama, and there's the descent of nectar and the purification, and to the Buddha, and there's the descent of nectar and the purification, and so on.
Oh yeah, that 당나가도 잠도 당고시도 고 잠도 지나는데 고주 같아지 이메나 다 당봉가도 람림시도 제외는 당고도 잠도 고도 가서 남아라 잡수 치고 다 남아라 잡수 치세도 라마데 다 가르선 대단하고 동안다 남사게 민삼 꼬이 와다 라마 방민삼 라마 가르거라 라마 댕아 꼬샤로 어디 라마 댕아 됐다 아니 라마 댕아도 셌다니 아니 라마 댕아가 있다 잡수 치와라 때네 아니 다 라메기다 수수고 다또 라마를 잡수 치와라 때네 가르치고 있는 라메 꿀을 뒤집어져 채 아니 시라게 하고 여러 뒤집어져 채 아니 뒤집어져 라마를 잡수 치고 빼는 거다 살찌 많이 맞아 빼는 청고직 장에 빼온도 잡아 있나 아니 청고직 단계 여바이는 다 청고직네 청고직이 나 장아 야다 여바는 야는 업주 담바직 아니 라기 티고 다베 미바체 업주 담바직이 아니 뒤집어 보면 라메기 데이터들 라라 깨베 미바체 어디에 치고래 손.
Then this is the beginning of the process of going for refuge, and in the context of the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment, one begins the refuge by going for refuge to the Guru. I go for refuge to the glorious Guru, begins the recitation, and the glorious Gurus have been visualized at the point of the middle of the brow, just before, just in front of oneself, and there the five sets or five groups of the Gurus are visualized. One goes for refuge to these five sets of gurus, and as one goes for refuge, what follows from this refuge? The visualization of the descent of nectar that purifies and generates good qualities in us is a very good practice to conjoin with the refuge. And so if one is going for refuge to the Guru, one may recite the refuge verse of going to refuge, to the Buddha, rather to the Guru, 100 times if one has 100 beads on one's mala. And as one does this the first 100 times, visualize the descent of nectar purifying all negativities through that recitation of 100. And then continuing on to a second 100, the second 100, the descent, during the descent of the nectars produce in us the great qualities of the Guru.
Jamru chene ta Lama jamru chene ane ta dikwa chanadela zo karsung yoresna Lame ane kula degwa ane Lame sung chaba Lame tuk tuba ane Lama la mate nyeme chaba stadi zo Lama la tene dikwa chango zo shiri dires 어디 지소나 마대님 제가 송장 그걸 되고
Now from the body of the Guru, as one goes for refuge, descend the purifying nectars. And the nectars that descend from the body of the Guru purify principally the negativities done toward the Guru, principally these negativities of endangering the Guru's body, disobeying his orders, disturbing his mental peace, disparaging him, and not having faith in them. And with that, then the descent of nectars purifies all negativities, all negative latencies, any residue in the mind stream, all negativities for which one is responsible in all one's past lives are purified. The nectars that descend from the Guru's body during this purification are white. When the purification is complete, then yellow nectar descends from the body of the Guru. And this yellow nectar contains all the good qualities of the Guru's body, speech, and mind, and produce these qualities in each of us. And so this yellow nectar fills us up, and as we brim with the yellow nectar, especially the provisional and the ultimate mind of enlightenment is produced in us in yellow nectar. So I will conclude here, and we will review this again, this process of the descent of purifying nectar again next week. So we'll stop here for now, and if you have any doubts or if there's anything that is unclear, remains unclear, we can use our Q&A time to address those things.
Yeah, yes, I need to cut to the today.
Thank you for teaching us.
Yeah.
And often in tankas or other images, there are these orbs, which look like maybe orbs of essence. I don't know what they are. Could you help me understand what those are?
아니 그다음에 아니 샴라 지단데 도토 디 고르고르데 여러와 그래서 믹서기 그래서 주역역게 아니 진라 된데 얘기를 야면은 고르고 가르사 아니 도토 된서 샴라 도토 된서 가르래
알아지도 다 가진 무지 그 레이트인데다 내가 이게 멤버치야 무징레다 누구를 담는다 이거라니 간다 거기 라마가 건데 거기 고야기 잘라서 피를 누구지 전쟁을 그래서 그냥 와르디 우사도 전쟁 가가요 나디 코랑이 티들 누구도 나들 피고도 그래서 하나도 손놈 살 제들이 피를 미과해서
the objects there at the base are are themselves gems and precious objects, and they stand in place as a representation of offerings that we make to these personages. They symbolize offerings of various kinds that we make to these individuals.
You mentioned the first 100 presentations of refuge done to the guru, and then Ishva has mentioned the second 100. Should those go then to the other 3 refuges?
Oh yeah. So the question was, I've been asked to repeat the questions. And I'm just
you talked about going to refuge
I don't know.
and doing 100 recitations.
Yeah.
And those first 100 going to the group.
Oh.
And then he mentioned the second 100.
Oh.
And I was curious, should the second 100 recitations go generally to the Buddha Dharma and Sangha?
다들 아니 쟁도 그래서 아니 사치 아니 디지바 가리 웹장체네 아니 쟁도 아니 갸 아니 살미 아니
수수 이 단계는 찍도 제가 찍모도 잠깐만은 찍이 차갔어요.
라라라
차갔어요. 차가디 디버장에 미버체
no
로 웹장으로 당 주지 웹에 미버체 찍이 장에 미버체 근데 근데 갸 담으면 잠깐만은 넘좀 주세요.
no
예, 장안 이 단계는 찍도 장에 근데 다 수수 빼세요.
라라 되네 갑중 그래서 아니 갑중 지나 되네 아니 상게라 되네 아니 쳐라 되네 그래서 긴들라 아니
강간때
강간라 라 찍거래 아니 많이 찍봐
말 다디 다나 가도 다도 라마 찍볼 빼자리 봐
라
라마 찍볼 라마를 때니 아니 디스베장체 상게 된 디스베장체야 아니 쳐라면 디스베 기능 디스베장여라 라브리스나 수수 찍으러
라
어디 지도도 라마를 뺀 디스베장체 라마를 때로 채워서 아니 정보 찍다도 납주 담바데 디스 베베는 거지 납주 담바데 아니 티바 장하는 거지 어떻게 아니 캐버드 가르치는 디스 베베는 거지도 알세 세우세 티바 장하는 거지도 아니 제가 뭐 가오세 어떻게 캐버드
다니 티와 쪼데 데니 그래서 아니 라마라니 납주 제나 데네 아니 상게라양 납주 제나 야포르베 데네 아니 쳬라 납주 제나 야포르베 데스니 마뉴 찍브로
찍고지네 야고 때문에
the descent of nectars and purification, if one does one mala's worth, only one mala's worth 100, then one would divide 50 for the descent of the white nectar that purifies and 50 for the yellow light that produces the good qualities in us. And then if one does 100 of one would do 100 of the other. It's just you do half of the white light, the white nectar, and half of the yellow nectar. And then, yes, if you do that for the guru, then you can do an equal number for the Buddha, and then for the Dharma, and then for the Sangha. Yeah, it makes sense to do the same number. And the principal feature of this visualization is white nectar streaming down, purifying negativities, and yellow nectar streaming down, producing good qualities.
One follow-up. In terms of the three attitudes that we have going for refuge, do we do similar, like use have the attitude of fear, have the attitude of faith, have the attitude of great compassion? Similarly, like do 30, 30, 30.
어드네 디 규숨 열어 다드네 디 규숨 아니 여비체 데네 아니 숨차 책 아니 규 담보티 라믹네 캡수 조체 데네 아니 숨차 책 아니 유니버디 라믹네 아니 캡수 조체 두스체네 두스 예와체네 예와체네 야면은 고샤 기압네 두스체나 약보르베
tiene tigir ine injimi chumadari tadadi kyusum kiye tambo jambu gyule kiye gyulwa kyusum di masana tibochi jambu jing mar tada gyu tambuni di masana jambu kuna jing marwa jambu kiye la gyu tigir goguyo di tambo di susu semna nyeba che yanchana na dusi babjansin dedechini kiye ba chege tigir injimi jambu sum di kyusum kiye ba
Okay, that too would be fine. It would be fine to do it that way, but it's not necessary that you do it that way. It'd be fine to do that. What's necessary are these three as causes for the first going to refuge. Without those causes, there will be no going for refuge at all. So essential is first ascertaining the significance of those three causes, and then those three causes causing one to go for refuge. And then once you are in the process of going for refuge, if you'd like to divide up your attention to those causes in the way you described, that's okay as well.
Yeah,
I've seen people using their malas in two different ways. And one, they push the beads outward, and then I saw some others that pull the beads inward toward themselves. Is one way correct and the other way incorrect, or do they have different purposes?
And kashi par gya gya and janka gyapkin yang tong yongyo jisa and kibar yorube and karisina yagare.
That's not so level. They look at the Mangola Kashi, so 10 away. Then Suzuki, Yamlin Kashi Kashila. Penango never did the Doya Chitola Yanga, Tanga did the Chitola, Changa Chilo Tango today. You're what the year, and it's Suzuki that would Suzuki had to move to way not Chang Mangachi. Also, what did we watching the chair year in a young Jimmy the children in Canada that came Maris. And so what I say, I want to pay my day, let you tell you what got so Changa Gaidra or the Miss.
Now, mainly you can choose between, you can do it whichever way is more comfortable for you. However, there are some who deliberately push the bead outward as they count mantras involved in a practice for the purpose of preventing obstruction and hindrance to one's practice. And so some push the beads outwards as a reflection of the practice of preventing obstacles, blocking obstacles. And then others, when counting the mantras in a deity visualization in which one accomplishes siddhis, pull the beads towards them as they count, as they are pulling in siddhis. There are such visualizations, but you aren't responsible to do one or the other. You may do whichever is most comfortable for you.
Yes, concerning the visualization of the guru or the teacher, is that a common practice or is that part of guru devotion? And if it is the root teacher who's teaching, and then they're looking at the tapu of Khapa who's no longer here, why would there be that tanka if he would not be the person who's teaching? And how would someone even use the tanka when Khapa here? And are we just seeing him as the root of it? If he is the root of the teaching to the Buddha second, and then it seems that the next place you can just use the Buddha there without the root guru, if that is the case.
That's the so Tsawe Lama the Tsokshingi Kila Kobati the Mipa Kyangtan the Tumo Rebe, Tumo Mayimba Rebe, the Chikche. Then Chitan the Tangi Kila and the Jetson Khapa Godwa. And then Jetson Khapa the Mosushuk de Yomarwa. Kong Matsu Tsawe Lama and the Tigi Yomarwa, Kong and the Jitin de Sarwa. Jeton the Jetson Khapa ki Tabla has a Sakya Tuba and a Kurt Chogrwa. Oh, Jeton and the Jetson Khapa and the Gandin Chuluki and the Sub de Chaken Ra. Kong Zochine the Kila Kurga begins and day and Sarah. Oh, the so what's that one?
Oh, yeah, Lama Tsong, Lama Go said, Lama Go said it to Mumba. The Kanda Suine, that to the Suine, and in that take what Simbu in Yamin Manche, the Yamin Court Resmus. Osma, the together. And Condana, Yamin Lama Got. Cousin Lucia, the Lama Mena. Sanji onto chilab onto togu mare ofa kunjo sumbi chilab di lama guri hongor ma lama men kunjo sumbi chilab onto yutu mare o ti gyuba di lama guri baida lama tol sone ani toji tol ko ofa yiti so ta jerum je koya di 가르쳤으나 ta kunyeki lama ti onto pechen ta suzu 베나마도 미디아타 바이는 소신 미라 야다 뭐 고용 물어봐. 이나야 다다 소신 보라 고네 라마티 고라고 가르치는 람림 디 소리 라마디 람리 저저로 번데 베제름 제기 뉴람 좀도 잡아 다 람리 소신 조도 고라고 제름제 라마디 제름 제샤 아니 남바디 샤게 두바샤 아니 디라 세바 송지스 아니 조신 공부여레스 데레스 다 이내 만족 건데 제름제가 잡들라 수수 라마 공부로 와 수수 라마 수수 라 모두 수수 라마 임바 나바디 자와시게 두바 임바 아니 셈바 수제 친구 공부로 와 어떻게 카페 오래서 어떻게
The inclusion of one's personal guru, one's root guru, as centerpiece of the merit field is a common practice. It's shared in common. Making principle the guru in this visualization of the merit field is common practice, common to all the different philosophical schools in the Mahayana, or rather, in the Mahayana and common to the practice of the secret Mantrayana. This is the common practice here. Now, it's a common practice because of the recognition that without the Guru, one cannot receive the blessings of the Buddha. By virtue of the Guru, one's spiritual mentor, one has received the blessings of the Buddha, and therefore the spiritual mentor is indispensable. So we take the spiritual mentor as principle in the visualization, and this is common. To use Tsong Khapa specifically as centerpiece of the visualization of the merit field is just a particular instance, an illustration for how one arranges a merit field. For any 100 different people engaged in visualization of 100 merit fields, you may well have different principles chosen by those individuals. We find Tsong Khapa in these depictions of the merit field in the tradition of the Panchen Rinpoche, who composed the Swift Path, and who included his principal Lama in his visualization, Tsong Khapa, and the essence is Tsong Khapa. The aspect is Shakyamuni Buddha, and that personage, essence, the Guru Buddha, aspect, Shakyamuni Buddha, is arranged in the triple sattva, and this is in the tradition of the Swift Path of Panchen Rinpoche. Now, each of us may switch this up according to our own gurus. Today suggests
I'm wondering about when you're chanting on the mala. I'm noticing sometimes when I'm trying to do 21, 7, my mind is more on the number than on what it is I think I should actually be focusing on, like the guru or whatever deity it is. So I'm wondering about malas themselves and how sometimes I see people tie markers. Is it okay to tie at 21 or this new practice today at 50? Something there so that the thumb can bump against it. There are lots of malas that come with a bead, but it doesn't seem like they're at any specific, like a larger bead, but it doesn't seem like it's at 21 or 50 or anything like that. So I'm just curious about putting something there versus, to actually be telling it feels like I'm thinking about the number instead of.
그래서 송아 이 장극기도 아니 정도에서 제제 기업네 아니 장극기야 여러 다 와 dus 아니 와 장두 장하나 되지 제두 장극기야네 와 장극기야라 아니 돈랑 한참 전에 아니 닝든데 아니 락저기도 다 아니 정도 정타 가실라 아니 가르라 그래 책 다되어래 아니 정도 아니 친구책 아니 다 아니 현대인들 통용이야 다 아니 얘네 뭔가 니시사 책라 다면도 여면은 납줄라 다면도 다가 아니 김세 매바를 책다 아니 다네 아니 니시사 책라 다요 말에 아니 납줄라 다요 말에 얘네 디 수수 장게 갭도 장게 갭이라 도나 마체네 다가 장게 갭네 chick rene di do chewa chick rene ale ni nishta chick la leson ani hagoya dende dana jigribe te get this all chason
안들 또 장가 야야가 로봇 되는데 또 말해 아마 또 대가라서나 맞아 공개해야 되와 다 맞아 뒤 장가 야야가 돼서 꿈마시니 쌤나 땡이지 꾸야 지도라 차제 제야가 그래서 꿈마시 거로 어제서 되게 이제 딱 맞아 가르치는 장가 야야디 아니 쌤나래 즉 전박이 말아야 꾸마치야 지도 저기 요랬지 지도서 이들 배낭아서 나디다 예세진 것이 올라다 권한도이나 장가 제백이 이걸로 유거로 요마로와 공자전 수수 땡이진 세우이나 쌤나는 땡이진 숙청부이나 장가 제와 거가 친구 말해 아무도 땡이진도 세우면 안 땡이진도 한소 야냐 유 잡아치 두고 매도 안 잡아 꾸야 지도라 장아도 다제 아니 수수 한번에 되게서 장기 좀 꿀롱땅 아니 대다 말해봐도 세는 거 땡아서 꾸야 지도라 아니 주자지 야든가 다제 들 장가 치고지로 어디든지 이내 수수 그게 sem버 첨바 땡부유 땡이지 유나 근데 장가 제때 최고 말은 그래서
counting and recitation are in any case not the focus. The meditation is of principal importance. The counting itself is encouragement and reminder in the meditation so that one may eventually achieve a stable and powerful samadhi. So the process of counting along a mala is to help one recall what one is engaged in and encourage one to continue in that. And during the time of Shantideva and other pundits, there's no account of those individuals even needing to count as they meditated and recited their mantras. The assumption being that their samadhi is sufficiently vivid and powerful that there's no need to count. But for us, for a reminder, direction, and encouragement, it is fine to have a bead that indicates you have completed 21 or any given number. And so you just set out at the beginning to recite given number and do so, and then are reminded that you have done so when you meet that bead. But this isn't necessary, wouldn't be necessary if one's samadhi were stable. Okay, if there are no others, then we will recite our closing prayers. So then with that, having attended to the causes for going for refuge, and then having produced these causes and having gone for refuge, we recite these dedication prayers so that the good qualities that come from going for refuge and the purification of negativities that refuge also entails, both are consummated in our practice. With this end in mind, we recite our dedication prayers.
직창주 쌤 뭐 뒤숨기 거네 아니 밀라 거기 팸을 두배하게 자기 유나면서 숨이 열어지다 곧 염려를 왔을 때 표현신 거를 해서
Now, when we think of social service, working for the common good, one powerful force to make us able to do that is the mind that goes for refuge. And additionally, the mind of enlightenment, and then furthermore, dedicating one's virtues. These two support us in our work for the communal good. And so we have now attended to going for refuge. So with these in mind, we recite our closing verse.
Rangi jishin dobe lamji ni shuda tsewe zhangwe tabji Drowe yiji mumbo seje yewe tenpa yure zengyo ji Tenpa rinje choje majaba jabya yambar yube chode Nije chenpo yira jewa ye tende tejim sewa jeba shu Seje jawe menyon chile lekru yantu gangye rebe Tadu nangye yila pete jim jawe zeba rindu yangye Lanzang rebe tugin ruje jen terang suje Eva lime Tera kundu jawe ngaba ye Lambda lambda rewa payiroche Anze teba chola jujuje Suje dola zumba deyi Tuden nange tatu troche je Taji jaso chogu jangyo ji From my two collections, vastest space that I have amassed, from working with effort at this practice for a great length of time, may I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose minds' wisdom eye is blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in your loving compassion for all my lives, my Drishti. May I find the best of the paths of the complete teachings, and may I please all the Buddhas by practicing. Using skillful means drawn by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings with the points of the path as I have discerned them. May I uphold Buddha's teachings for a very long time. With my heart going out with great compassion, in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread or once spread have declined, may I offer this treasure of happiness to aid all sentient beings. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted bounteous peace, and the Buddha's teeth be nourished for a long time by following the complete graduated path to enlightenment and the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their sons. May all human and non-human beings that eliminate adversity and make things conducive for practicing the excellent paths never be parted in any of their lives from the purest path praised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone makes an effort to act in accordance with the tenfold Mahayana virtuous practices, may he always be assisted by the mighty ones, and may oceans of prosperity spread everywhere. Dagi jinye sabe yewandi tendan rowa kuna kampen Kebara jizun lozon dagwa yi tembe nimbo rindu seji cho Kare rawe gorwe shinkande tendan dewa Tere Zewa Tingi Yadu Jambe Sidi Maris Tenyu Ji Jambe Bo Jida Kemba Kundu Zambu Dayan Deji Eda Kunji Jesu Dalu Gewa Dita Tamje Rabdu Yuzun Shebe Gewa Tamje Mawa Chokdu Dagi Gewe Dawa Degunya Tambo Juji Rabdu Mage Baham Ige Gewa Nyamba Meba Gonde Gonde Sure. Dedicate whatever virtues I've ever collected for the benefit of the teachings and of sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of the Venerable Losandra Khapa. In a land encircled by snowy mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good, all powerful sinners and anything else. Please remain until cyclic existence has been done. Just as the brave Manjushri and Samantha too, realizing that they are, also I dedicate all of these merits in this way, that I may follow their perfect example. I dedicate all these roots of virtue, with the dedication praised as the best, by the victorious left-gone ones of the 3 times, so that I might perform the noble holy sacrifice. May the supreme jewel of what teaches that is not arisen rise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. Oh, so if it's comfortable, the weather's nice outside, then we can share our meal out there and have our discussion out there. Oh, there's the great fortune and blessing of some of these Dharma friends bringing great dishes for lunch.
Thank you. And the 친구들 남들 초라해서
Oh, and also we have the prasad from the Gana Chakra, the fruits here.
yes.
Thank you. Thank you.